And I come from a Dublin that's old school, with home troops and youths in shiny tracksuits. I come from a place where the best haircut was the step, people got wrecked and we would just let roam the streets freely. See, my gang was 10 deep. We'd spend our days hanging around corners, and when night came upon us, we became night crawlers, getting into trouble running back to our mothers. Yeah, we were right little gurriers. See, days were simple for us, getting into trouble and getting out without much of a fuss. If we needed a ball, we'd doctor a car for sponsorship, door-to-door chancers. Will you sponsor us, miss? Getting just enough money for a cup champion football and a few bag of chips. See, this is the innocence that I miss. I remember the first time one of the lads had a dirty mag. I remember when Big O was missed Halloween because he gets sick from smoking fags. I remember being 15 and getting served and drinking cans with the lads. I remember with Git Tommy. He kicked a needle out of one of the lads' Odin in the flats, but we were happy little chaps. Hair gelled up and eyes in their baseball caps. We'd slag off girls because we didn't want them to know that we liked them, or that we were into them, or that we'd spend all day dreaming and kiss them and all night pretending that we weren't into them, with the lads taking the absolute piss out of us because we wouldn't say we wanted to wear the face off them. As nights had faded, I got back to me gaff, spent some time with Dad and watched TV for a laugh, because ours was a house that was always full of laughter. Even when my brother died, even when the banks were at the door demanding money to take our house, me in the corner quiet as a mouse, seeing this strange man shouting me out and giving out because the house was in her name, they could fuck right off. Times after that were tight, but my ma was a fighter. She fought for all of us. When things were rough, she was there to pick us up. When I had to cover a hole and we were running with cardboard, she joked and said, once it doesn't rain, son, you'll be grand, and that stopped making it awkward. This matriarch of an incredible heart is the hero with this story. See, she once told me, they can take anything, son. They can't take your education. These are the words I've lived my life on. So when others were out gurrying, I was in study, and when I didn't get the exact exam results I wanted and started worrying, she was there to comfort me, to encourage me, to keep on going. And every time I got hockeyed out of it by life, just think of me dad and his wife, how they didn't bring up their kids to feel sorry, and to never worry, because no matter what they take, if you have your education, you can take it back. And sometimes I think back to those lads in the flats with their hair gelled up and their eyes in their baseball caps, and I think, what if they listened to the words of me ma? They might still be here. Instead, they're either dead or they're strung out in smack. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me here at the James Connolly Festival. I grew up in the north side inner city, and you know, I did that poem first because a lot of the time I wonder how I got out of it, and how I've been kind of successful to an extent in my life, and how I didn't go down those routes. And a lot of the time I've gone back to like studying around trauma and the impact trauma has on the person and on the person's brain, and how that can determine their life going forward. So I wrote this next piece to hopefully will make you think about the people on the street and the young kids and lads who are in trouble a little bit different. This one's called Misunderstood. Poverty, homeless, jobless, lack of education, abuse. He's a waster. He has no future. The disruptive child. Don't worry about him. He's going to end up in addiction. Do you ever stop and think why? See, it's easy to explain it away by saying it's cyclical, but it's more than that. It's intergenerational. This is unintentional, but the subliminal trauma continues down through the family bloodline. From grandparents to parents, traumas become fears that are passed on to the child. People talk about breaking the cycle of crime, stopping hoods, the war on drugs, gangs with knives, lads throwing shapes and digs, lurking in shadows, up to no good. They must be dealers or schemers. They're dangerous youths, scumbags, junkies. We lay with them, dehumanise them. Makes it easier for us to forget. So we petition for harsher punishments, stop and search on the streets, treat every disadvantaged child the same, make sure they don't feel unique. They're potential danger to society, destined to take the wrong path. So what they need is stricter boundaries, forgetting that what everyone needs, what we all need, is empathy. See, most of us live here in the frontal lobe, and this is where a person is most in control, where rational thoughts are thought out and exposed. Then there's a trigger. We're faced with a previous trauma. Our brain patterns alter and it goes back to the hippocampus. A genetic animal instinct designed to protect us. We go into fight, flight, or freeze mode. For most of us, this is a rare occurrence, something that we can endure since the vast majority of our lives are safe. We don't live in fear. But what if these triggers were regular? Monthly? Weekly? Daily? Our lives spent in this tense state where maybe one wrong move and we're seen. Beaten up in a bedroom just for breathing, another domestic violence victim. Or a child abused and moved from foster home to residential home, to homeless, helpless, hopeless. See, acute childhood experiences are measured on the ACEs scales and they leave scars. The more ACEs you're exposed to can determine the future you have. Were you neglected as a child or abused? Did you spend hours petrified in your bedroom? Did you feel unloved? Did you regularly see your loved ones high or drunk? Were you separated from your parents because of neglect, divorce, death? Were you ever beaten until you were fighting for breath? Were you close to someone who was suicidal or depressed? Did they go to prison for a stretch? And did you make sure that these feelings of your traumas remained repressed? And see, the more times you say yes, the less light your future holds. Chances quickly increasing of you becoming a victim or addicted, in prison, becoming homeless, judged by society who say you're worthless. And this is all out of your control because it may not be your fault. Sometimes people's actions are unintentional, but a reaction to being reminded of a previous trauma. They live in constant fight and flight mode, relying on instinct to keep them safe. Can you even imagine living your life this way? So this is how society will remain, unless we're brave enough to look at things differently. See, what I'm talking about here are facts, like the conclusions of many PhD studies. Even look at Dr. Sharon Lambert down in UCC, or the ACEs scales, which I've talked about from the States. Or go over to the implementation of trauma-informed care in Glasgow. There's already paths laid out that we can follow. We need to begin by treating the person and not the crime. We need to start asking why. Why have people turned to drugs and violence? Why do we accept that this is cyclical in families? Why can a postcode determine someone's destiny? Why has it taken us so long to protect the most vulnerable in society? And why are we afraid of treating every person, no matter their faults, or how their instinctual ways and how they deal with trauma?